Hi, folks. It is Monday, February 23rd, the year of our Lord 2026. And yes, I am not in the diner. We have had a horrific storm, and depending upon who you're talking to, it could be 18 inches, it could be 2 feet. We got a lot of snow this time, and the timing could not have been worse. The snow didn't stop here until about 3 or 4 o'clock. And, our driveway is still clogged up after snow blowing part of it. It's tremendous how much snow there is. Anyway, that is neither here nor there, and that barely qualifies as news. So here are the things I'd like to get into. First of all, this week's op-ed. Last week was dysfunctional Democrats. I want to make sure some of you saw that one. But this week, it's the secret of election fraud. Yes, there is a secret, and I need to reveal it. It starts with the first sentence. The secret of election fraud is incompetence. Plain and simple, incompetence. See, the condition of election fraud, election integrity is abysmal in all 50 states. And record keeping, in my opinion, is at the heart of the problem. Okay. So you can take record keeping and make that sort of the hard ball, but then around the record keeping, you have a number of other things involving various processes, procedures, standards, statutes involving training and not just record keeping for the voter rolls, but other related record keeping. And what we have seen, certainly we can say in Connecticut this is the case, but spoiler alert, I'm going to talk about Georgia. All right. If any of you have seen any of the hearings that have been going on between the Fulton County Board of Elections and the state board in Georgia, it's embarrassing. I don't even know how else to explain it. It is absolutely embarrassing. The people in the Fulton County Board have been caught lying left and right. They're doing everything they can to cover their rear end. Oh, a clerical error. Oh, we're overloaded. Oh, this. Oh, that. No, sorry. And you can see that the Georgia board, the state board, was not buying it. Okay, so I don't know if the one of the responsibilities of the board is criminal referrals, but after listening to person after person saying, "Oh, Mr. Jones, is this document, does that have your signature on it, this voter registration form?" "No, that's not my signature." And they say, "Mr. Jones, could you please write your signature?" So he write his signature. And then they take it over and give it to one of the people on the state board. They compare the registration and what he wrote, and they can see clearly, nope, 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 it's a fraud. How did this happen? How did this happen? Staring at the clerk for the Fulton County Board. No answer. I don't know. I don't know. Clerical error? Yeah, I don't think so. No, that's called breaking the law. That is called da 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 fraud, for which you should be in jail. Unbelievable. Okay, so in the moment, we're watching these people be embarrassed for what they have done. Okay, but given that this has gone on for over, well, somewhere in the vicinity of 5 years. That's 5 years where the Fulton County Board, instead of fighting every motion to have those records released to them, the ones that the FBI had to take by force, the 700 boxes, those records, they could have taken the time and trouble and made the effort to make good on all this stuff. But no, they had to believe that they could hide it and get away with it. Nope, not happening. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, while we're busy watching the FBI haul those boxes out there, remember Tulsi Gabbard, DNI, was on the ground looking there on the phone to Trump and said, "Yep, we got some problems here." And when she said we, she was referring to international problems. So we should not be surprised that later there was a suggestion that the information that has been gathered from the Georgia records will show interference from foreign adversaries. How do you like them apples? Election interference from foreign adversaries. Gee, let me think. Well, one of the funny things I wish to suggest to you, ladies and gentlemen, because the timing is a little 6, 7 is kind of, sort of, Venezuela. For those who followed it, we know that there's a whole thing about Dominion systems being involved in election fraud. Dominion systems are used in Georgia, and they're used in Venezuela. And now the question is whether or not it's a connection. And they say they take the records from the Fulton County office. Now they talk about interference from a foreign adversary, and Venezuela is a foreign adversary. Yeah, this is called stay tuned. All right. Anyway, I didn't mean to dwell on that. All right, so I guess I kind of jumped ahead here. All right, so by now it should be obvious from my comments and my spleen that there is fraud in Georgia. Oh my goodness, is there fraud in Georgia? But there's this larger issue here. I mean, you can use Georgia as a model, but I am hinting, yeah, I'm hinting that maybe Connecticut has a problem too. They're not the only ones. And it's going to be based upon the same idea. The best way to hide fraud is to claim incompetence, to have people stand up there and do stupid things, show they don't know how to carry out the functions of their office, show that they're quite capable of doing wrong-headed things, dare I say illegal, but somehow they're in an official capacity. So maybe we're supposed to somehow give them a break. I don't get it. Oh, all right. Okay. What I expect as a citizen, as a taxpayer, as a person who loves this country, there will be justice. There will be justice in every single case. And by the way, I'm focusing now on Connecticut. That's right, Wanda. I'm talking about you. I'm talking about a corrupt judiciary which comes up with all kind of screwy rulings. They don't qualify as rulings. It's random stuff. It's like these fake AI rulings and fake AI legal briefs. You got to be kidding me. Anyway, enough of that. So the point is, it's used. You don't want to show fraud, so you play stupid. You play incompetent. And so now somehow you want to blame the system. You want to blame the procedures. You want to blame something that somebody did 10 years ago, rather than focusing on the people now who have an absolute interest in giving the image of incompetence in order to hide their intentional fraud. Okay? So we'll leave it at that. And once again, my fellow Republicans, you got to rise up. We got to speak up. Got to do something. This is unacceptable. All right. So now I want to move on to the news, such as it is. Okay. Okay. Tell-tongue time. Small fry get fried eventually. And for Tina Peters, I just raised the rhetorical question. Georgia to the rescue? Because what happened in Georgia happened in Colorado. Okay? And to anybody who knows anything, the upside down, wrong-headed ruling that Colorado inflicted on Tina Peters will have to be dealt with somehow. Anyway, just a minute, since I'm talking about Tina. Again, I've raised this point and I'm raising it again. Why can't you secure her as a federal witness and take her out as a federal witness under protection? Why can't you do that? I need to hear an explication. Pam hasn't said a word. Not a word. So, yeah, I'm disappointed. Moving on. Okay, Iranian students shout death to the mullahs. Well, yes, they are back out in the streets, and certainly this week you're seeing a lot more in the news about how the American Navy is kind of positioning itself. And I have to say, from the other sources that I've been consulting, they have every reason to worry. I'm going to say it. Iran may turn out to be a more than capable adversary in a military conflict because they've been anticipating this for a long time. So between their midget subs that can lay mines in the Strait of Hormuz to the what I'll call the Nat fleet, of tiny boats that can swarm ships, something they've been doing for a long time. The ballistic missiles that they have, and God knows what else. The Iranians can put up a fight here. And so the thing is, while all that's going on, my question is what's going on the ground? We've had reports of explosions in various cities around the country. There's one place where they had 7 explosions all close to each other, no explanation. And you can be sure without saying much, I'm going to say it since nobody else is going to say it. Mossad is obviously still on the ground, and I might even throw the CIA into that. Okay, trying to lay the groundwork. Okay, then there's a report of a large Russian uh, plane, an Ilyushin 74, I think was the term for it, landing in some special location in Iran. So, where the gold probably went earlier and Chinese picked some things and took them home, now maybe finally, even as the Iranians are trying to stall and misdirect on negotiations, they probably realize that it's time to go while the getting's good. And even after saying that, the things I look at, I would worry. But I trust that the U.S. Navy has been wargaming this and studying this and analyzing it and tracking it with intelligence agencies for quite some time. And so I'm just going to state the obvious here, ladies and gentlemen. Um, Iran is a critical pillar, all right, for Russia and China. For them to lose Iran is going to be big. Now, hold that thought. Hold that thought. The other part I want to talk about was an inadvertent comment that was made by, I believe, the foreign minister of Communist China, where he, let's say, admitted that if Russia loses in the conflict with Ukraine, that will hurt Red China. All right, let's just hold on to that thought for a second. I'm going to say it again. If Russia loses, let's say in any capacity, to Ukraine, it will hurt Red China. So, yes, Russia is considered the junior partner. They've had these trade agreements that they've developed. So, if Russia loses, they might lose those trade agreements. But there might be something else here that's not really being talked about in terms of how this could weaken China's position. Will it weaken China economically? Will they lose a trade partner? I'm not so sure about that. Possibly. But right now, let's just take the foreign minister's word at face value and decide, okay, that would be Red China, have a vested interest in keeping Russia in the game, even as Russia wants to stay in the game. But that said, where do I want to go with this? The thing I want to jump on is that we've had reports of how the Ukrainian army has made inroads into the Zaporizhia region. So that would be kind of the southeastern part of Ukraine that's been occupied by Russia. Meantime, we've had all this talk about holding on to Pavlovsk, and now they've said the Russians can have it, and they're downplaying it. Are they making excuses? That's possible. I'm just not sure. But the key thing here is, though, there's still the sense that the Ukrainians are throwing some very effective punches. So just one, okay? You may or may not remember the Baby Sea drone that had damaged that Kilo-class submarine at a base in the Black Sea. Well, you'd say the Russians said, okay, we're not going to let that happen again. So then they put in a sea fence or a wire fence to the harbor that reached all the way down to the sea floor. It didn't work. That's the short answer. It didn't work. The Ukrainians masterminded a very clever, multi-pronged strategy for getting back in there and damaging that sub some more. And as the story goes, it worked. Now, I don't know if it's true. There's this whole other cottage industry out there right now of videos that I am hooked on, guilty, that talk about these things. I should put up the links for them, I guess. Yeah, but their names you might. So one is Professor Gerdes, another is the Military Show, another is Pyotr Kurzin, Joe Blogs, I think was another one. And these guys are consistently, and Paul Warburg. So these guys are consistently reporting out what is really bad news. It's 80%, 90% of what they report is bad news for Russia. And maybe 80 to 90% of what is happening is bad news for Russia. This is what needs to be sorted out. Okay, so there's that part. Let me move on. The tariffs. We're going to do a special thing on tariffs tonight with my sidekick, Jason Douglas. So you'll be seeing that. Meantime, um, yeah, the what do I want to call this? I'm going to just call it the incredible irresponsibility. The incredible irresponsibility of the public school system where teachers are taking young kids out to protest ICE. All right? Stupid, very stupid. You have the case of the mother who is furious because her special needs son was dragged along with these kids to go out in the street and protest. Only they lost track of the kid and he got lost. He was found 11 miles away from the school. 11. How does that happen? Okay, it happens because they don't care. They're careless. They're so caught up in their phony activism that they forget common sense and common decency for people who really need their help. That's who they really are, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, so that's one. Then you had, what was the other one here? Anyway, there was another case of a son, and the father wasn't informed. He goes in front of the board there. I think it was in Virginia, and really unloads on them. So these people need to get a clue. All right, they're so caught up in their activism, but this is what we've been expecting. We knew that they're going to try and um, brainwash kids this way, and you know what? It might just be blowing up in your face. You screwed up liberal what's. All right, so enough of that one. Anyway, the term, ladies and gentlemen, is Sturmabteilung. It's in there. You can look it up. Oh my God, Epstein and Gates. Oh God, oh God, oh God, help us. All right. First of all, anybody who's following the Epstein crap knows that those two have been buddy-buddy for a long time. The problem, we're now finding out just how buddy-buddy they were. I believe it was, if I have it right, 1,500 references, emails back and forth, or mentioning each other or something. And let's see, what was the other thing? Oh, well over 100 meetings where Epstein basically camped out in the Gates Foundation, obviously hitting him up for money, which apparently worked. And yeah, that's just for openers. So then there was news that Gates has been indicted. I have to check the veracity of that, but there was a news item claiming that. All right, moving on. Digital ID, still a bad idea. You have people still pushing it and people still fighting it. And I still think it's a bad idea. And I want to remind you that in England, they really tried to push digital ID, but the public pushback on it was so strong that they had to back off on it. We need more of that here in America. All right, Medicaid fraud. This is not a surprise. Well, there's just more in the news. $8 to $6 billion in fraud, COVID loan fraud in California. We're waiting to hear more about that. So, it's just another layer of the onion being peeled back. It's just incredible. And oh my God. Speaking of Newsom, this one's too good to pass up. So I just put it up there. Um, Democrats, I think, are very bad at what we'll call ingratiating humor. They just they have a tin ear for it. Okay, so as the account goes, the link is here for you to go see. You'll see it. You just have to check later. Um, where he goes, my SAT score was 960. 960? And you became the governor of California? Wow. Maybe he's lying, you know? 960? Really? Boy, that is, they tell you if you just sign your name, you get 400 points. So, managed to earn another 160 points somehow? Miss the rest? Eee. Okay, we'll let that part go. But he uses that as pretext for saying, well, I'm not very good at reading, and I know some other people might not be as well, so I hope that doesn't offend you. Oh, we're offended. We're very offended. Don't you talk to us about white supremacy. Don't you talk to us about white privilege. Don't you pretend that you're some kind of social justice minded person when you make an idiotic comment like that. No. All right. So Gavin Newsom, as I says, steps on his nuts. Yes, but the link is there, so you get to go check it out. And on that happy note, I'm done for now, ladies and gentlemen. Until next week.